Sam Ditzell, owner of the Austin Longevity. Take your time today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
That's quite all right. Tell us your story. How did you get here?
Well, I started at a UT in 2000, and like anybody back then wanting to get into the health and fitness space, we all started as personal trainers. We were coaching clients of all ages and athletic abilities and coaching them on fitness and nutrition, training them like young, dumb 20-year-olds, which we all were. And then somewhere along the lines of the last 25 years, that industry has evolved to be a lot more clinical, a lot more holistic, and a lot more based on the long-term approach to how we keep people healthy, fit, and injury-free as they get older.
And what is your cause? What is your why? Why do you do this? What?
I think my big why is the challenge of meeting with these really, really high-strung, type A driven clients who have achieved so much success in the world of business, but just don't know how to take care of themselves. Not from a physical and nutrition and sleep and stress management standpoint anyway. So the majority of the clients we see have a litany of history of exercise and injury and then exercise and then injury, and they ping pong back and forth. So by the time they come to see us, they don't think that they can exercise and eat well and fit it into their lifestyle. And it's a real challenge to try to get a busy woman who has 3 kids and owns 2 businesses to prioritize herself. That's a big lift for us, and it's fun to convince someone of that determination level to get buy-in and get them to follow the program and see them get an outcome they didn't think they could get without help.
Can you give us an example of somebody you helped and kind of your core story of what you do and how you might help people?
Yeah, we see several people sort of in the perfect example in the autoimmune and wellness space, people that have, fallen prey to a busy lifestyle, busy career, kids, family, obligations, never really prioritize themselves and start to suffer from everything from lack of stress management to lack of sleep, inability to exercise. And that can go on for a while until someone reaches their, I'd say, late 30s to mid 40s. And they realize they really have to start taking their own health more seriously. So, perfect example, a few years ago, I met a woman who had a knee replacement surgery that went bad. She had a huge immune response to the surgery. Her body was rejecting the implant. The doctors were telling her that she'd have permanent nerve damage and that she wasn't going to be able to walk or climb stairs again. And she had just retired from a lifelong career in nursing, really wanted to travel the world and be athletic and be active. And she was facing down the prospect of not being able to do that any longer. And by just changing her exercise programming and having her eat the right foods and manage her sleep and really prioritize it, really some simple fixes, she was able to get off most of her medication and get back to her high quality lifestyle. And once we make a relationship like that, that person is your client forever and ever, which is a cool win.
Are there any shortcuts, any miracle remedies, anything that you see greater success than others that maybe most people don't even know about or aware of?
Yeah, it's really funny. The best shortcuts I would say are by far the most boring. So I've come to find in a 25-year career that the more sex appeal something has and the more promised results it has, the less it's going to work. And the more money you spend on it, probably the less it's going to work. So what we do a lot with our clients and patients is manipulate their diet, their exercise, their sleep, their social connections, and their stress management, which are all relatively low cost, even free techniques that people don't prioritize because they're not sexy and they're not expensive. So if they've received treatment, it's usually been from a high cost clinic or a concierge medical professional. They may be taking a litany of supplements and doing a lot of drugs, spending thousands of dollars a month on some protocol that really isn't getting them the results they want. When we convince them that they can do it much more cost effective and much more basic just by working with the basics of their own lifestyle and their schedule, that can be a big win for us.
What are maybe one, two, three things, dietary changes people probably should be thinking about making that would make a big difference in how they feel and how their body performs?
I think that's when it becomes the most simple to discuss and maybe the hardest to implement. People have grown up, we've all gotten conditioned to eating what we would describe now as the standard American diet, right? The processed food diet, the convenient food diet. We don't have the time as professionals and heads of families anymore to spend the afternoons cooking and food prepping and sit down for a long leisurely meal. Kids have practice and both parents work and it's just not in our lifestyle. So losing that social family connection around food, I think is the biggest thing. Because if we can help people add time and invest time in the food that they enjoy with their family, that's the biggest change, regardless of what they're eating in the beginning. We try to implement the social connection first. And one of our big themes is whether you cook or you hire out a cook or you have fresh food, freshly cooked food that's delivered to you, somebody has to cook the food. It can't be prepared in a fast food scenario. It can't be mass produced. It can't be preserved. And so, as long as we have people do that and increase the amount of whole foods they're getting, that's probably number one. But again, it's more effective around the social connection piece as long as people are either eating with a loved one, a friend, a family member, or their entire family. Two is we've got to get people sleeping more. That comes back to food. A lot of people eat processed food. They live on caffeine, high cortisol lifestyle, high stress. They eat late at night. They don't sleep well, whether triggered by alcohol or sugar or whatever. If we can get people to improve their sleep, that's probably number two. And number three is we have to find a way for people to increase the amount of fiber they eat in their diet. Processed foods aren't going to do it. Sleep's not going to add fiber. We've got to add fiber to their diet. So we just try to find the fresh foods that somebody is willing to experiment with and eat. My clients, a lot of times, are like little kids in that regard, right? Like, I'm not going to try to force them to eat broccoli or Brussels sprouts or something that they grew up hating. But if I can find a way to get fiber into the diet, then I'm a good coach.
Well, it sounds like those kind of changes in people's lives, especially people that have children and get their kids used to doing these things to train them how to live and take care of their bodies. I mean, this is generational changes, or it could be.
Absolutely. And we see that a lot. We see people who grew up being very active themselves because they had more time to do so. And maybe they did things, activity things with as a family with each other. But now that both parents work or run multiple businesses themselves and kids are involved in any number of after school activities and camps and teams and programs, there's just not enough time for people to invest in taking care of themselves. So they end up maybe over exercising if they're exercising or under exercising because there's no time. Or the biggest sacrifice they make is healthy, whole, at home prepared food because they just can't find the time to do it.
Hmm. And you're right. I mean, it can become an activity. Um, I was watching somebody the other day who was working with their young daughter creating a meal,
Sure.
and you could tell they were just really loving that time together,
Right. People view
this
it as a
kid.
chore, I think, which is a shame.
Yeah,
It can be
yeah.
engaging, it can be very we live in a very lonely society these days. And so it's a big priority for us from a longevity standpoint and a health standpoint to just get people more socially engaged. That all the data shows us that that moves the metric more than nutrition, more than sleep, and more than exercise. And if we can do that around food, all the better.
I have to train my wife. We
Good
have a
luck.
problem. We have a problem being in the kitchen together. It's
Sure,
a
sure.
personal problem we have.
Well, you don't both have to cook. Just somebody has to cook.
That's
Someone
so
can
cool.
hang out
Yeah.
and be sous chef and just enjoy the ride. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're gonna have to work on. Where are you going? What's the future look like for you and longevity clinic?
It's interesting. I don't even think the wave of the longevity industry has close to crested yet. I think that's both good and bad. I think it's good because there's a long way in this new shift in this new industry to go. But there's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of opinion, there's a lot of data being gathered, and it can be very overwhelming for people. So I think our real role in this industry now as fitness and wellness and longevity coaches is to help quarterback for people what they need to do out of all the things that they've seen on social media and in the media and in the books and on the podcasts. What was going to work best for them, and how can they improve their outcome with the minimal amount of input so that it's enjoyable and they can stick to it. How that goes at scale, I don't know. My practice is really defined more by a very small number of clients that we can spend a lot of quality time with to get a big change in their outcome. I'd love to see that apply itself to a larger group of people or people who don't have financial access to this type of coaching. And I'm not sure really how, possibly with a software AI based model, that happens. I'd really like to see how that transpires into the future.
Yeah, how would you reach more people? Do you have anything in the works that might expand your outreach?
There's certainly a lot of people that are asking that very question, and a lot of startups raising money and writing software and designing AI templates to do exactly that. I think that's a black box right now, and I don't know how successful that will or won't be. My guess is that I'd be better off trying to provide a semblance of some of my information in more of a mass media type format. I've got a YouTube channel with some, exercise protocols on it, and I write regularly for a Substack piece so that people can get an idea of what the content is, or a healthy way for them or their families to go. But when it comes down to it, for my practice, I really think the personal one-on-one engagement piece and the relationship is going to be key. And I don't know at this point if AI and technology can really replace that yet.
But in addition, aren't you going out on the speaker circuit?
I am, and that's a good question. That's a good way to sort of get the word out. I've given a couple speeches to business groups and CEO groups and client groups, and those are definitely well received. I think when someone like me who's done this for so long gets up in front of people and tells them, "Hey, it's a lot simpler than you think, and it's a lot less expensive than you think," it becomes far less overwhelming. And then people think that they can find a way to slowly change their life in measurable steps. It's not all or nothing, it's not overwhelming, and it's not cost prohibitive. So I think the speaking circuit has, room to expand my practice considerably, but that's still on a one-to-one basis. There's only so many patients that I can work with. I do have a few coaches that work under me now in the clinic that can help take some of that overflow. But again, we're talking about several dozen people at maximum, and how to get it to maybe the dozens or the hundreds or the thousands of people would be the next future step.
Now, fairly recently, in the last year, you joined a Vistage group. How has that helped you, or has it helped you kind of focus or make changes in your business?
I think it's been very integral to me to shift the way I think about the growth of this practice and how to disseminate more of that information. Marketing and PR and speaking publicly, those really weren't my forte growing up. I dealt really well with individual clients, with individual patients, working in a very sort of esoteric segment of the fitness and wellness industry. What my colleagues in Vistage have been able to do, since they know way more about marketing and business and the background in PR than I do, is help redirect my focus and expose me to more challenges than I would have pushed myself into. So it's been very, very important for me in that regard. They've helped me see a path to potentially scaling this delivery information and being able to help a whole lot more people, which is great.
And how does that helping more people, which I know, knowing you as I do, I'm really impressed with your focus of that. It's helping people, but how has that helping people helped you as far as growing your business?
Well, one, it feels really good to help people and to meet a challenge, like I said, to get somebody to buy into something that they really don't think is going to work because it's not expensive and it's so simple, and to get them a better outcome from that is really fun to see. It can be extremely lucrative because these are very touch heavy clients. By the time they get to us, they're willing to pay any amount of money to get expert guided advice and to have someone be direct with them and tell them exactly what they need to do, even if it's not a new drug or a new supplement.
So your outreach is expanding, and
It is.
that's a wonderful thing. I really impressed by your willingness and goal of helping people and making a major change in their life, because as you talked about that nurse who was giving a kind of a death sentence almost as far as her life goes, to
Right.
activate her again and allow her to do what she intended to do in the first place and is now able to do with your help. So,
Well, and when you get advice or a runway like that, especially from a physician who you respect and whose opinion you value, it's scary and it can be really overwhelming, as it was for her. But physicians, at least until before this new round of the Peter Attia ilk, the guys that, the men and women in medicine now who know as much about exercise and nutrition as they know about medicine, until they came into the industry and started doing podcasts and writing books and talking about it, doctors had very limited knowledge on nutrition and exercise and food supplementation and sleep and stress management. So when traditionally a surgeon would tell you that you're never going to walk again, it was a very isolated opinion. When we're able to show people another way out of that prognosis, it feels really good.
and rightly so, I think a lot of doctors, especially doctors that are baby boomers, millennials, Gen X, have been trained that prescription drugs are the key to everything.
Sure.
And what we're obviously finding out, and from what you talk about, that's not necessarily true. In most cases, it's not. There
Right.
is a more natural way that actually is beneficial, that has less side effects than most drugs. It's always scary if you get these prescription drugs and then you read all the possible side effects and you go, do I really want to take that or
Oh,
not?
it's terrifying. And by no means do I fault any of my clients for being on a medication that they need or that they've been on for some time. But if they are dealing with side effects, especially contraindications between medications, I certainly would like them to be on, under the guidance of their doctor, be on as few medications as possible and feel as good as they can without drugs if we can.
Right. Well, Sam, I really appreciate your time today. I wish you much success,
Thank
and I
you.
look forward to working with you in the future.
Great.
Again, I appreciate the time you've spent with us today.
Thank you, Randy. It's been a blast.